Hello, my friends and family, and well, everyone who is viewing. So, I created this page several years ago, uh, more than five, I'm not sure how long, to do a recording of my autobiography. I want to touch on, well, my whole life, but specifically, I want this to help persons who have gone through either domestic violence or some form of abuse. I hope this will be um, encouraging and helpful to women, men. We need to love each other better and we need to speak out. Let your story be known. So, this is Getting to Know Natalie, and I have with me one of my lovely mother, Audrey Jarrett. She will be my interviewer. Welcome, Audrey.
Thanks, Natalie. Hello, everyone. So, Natalie, when and where were you born?
Okay, so I was born May 16, 1985, and I was born at the Kingston Jubilee Hospital. Uh, this is in Jamaica, of course.
Okay. So tell us a little bit, where did you grow up?
So, my first 4 years, I grew up with my mother was living with my grandparents at Port Henderson, Portmore. So the first 4 years I was there, and then we migrated to Negril in Westmoreland. She went there to live with my stepfather. So I was in Negril from age 4 to about 13 years.
Okay, Natalie. So, can you tell us what was it like living in the grill?
All right. From what I remember, I think living in Negril was awesome. I still don't know where I'd say was the my favorite place to live, but that is in the top two, I would say. Um, I went to, well, all the schools that I went to was in close proximity. I could walk to school. The church that I attended was Negril New Testament Church of God. It was literally next door to where I lived. I could just jump the fence, or it was a barbed wire fence. So I actually used to walk through the fence, a little hole in the fence, to go to church on Sundays and on Fridays and whichever day we used to go to church. Um, I remember swimming like every weekend. I'd be at the beach like every Saturdays as a child. Well, at the age that I knew myself and I could go out with my cousins, my step cousins there. We'd always go to the beach, me and my friends. Like the beach was my playground. The beach was my hangout spot. The beach was my to go to place for everything in the grill. And the community, I think the whole community grew me. I grew up in a community where you had to know everybody by name. We said good morning to everyone. Um, Everyone at that time could reprimand you, could correct you if you're doing something. If you're misbehaving on the road, auntie so and so, because we call everybody auntie and uncle. Auntie or uncle could say, kids go home, or what you doing, and it was like the whole community. We were just this big family growing up.
So, as they say, it takes a community,
Yes.
or it takes a village, right? A community to raise, and
Yes.
that's that's what exactly happened to you.
Yes.
Um, so tell us, Natalie, who were your parents? Who are your parents?
All right. So I was born to Monica Campbell and sorry, Monica Stanley. She's now married Campbell. Monica Stanley, and my father's name is Michael Wong. Um, my mother started out as a single parent, and then she met my stepfather, I believe, when I was about 3 years old, and they started dating, and then they decided to move together to live in Negril. So he became, well, my stepfather after that.
Okay. And can you tell us what were your parents like growing up?
Um, I didn't realize we get to that part so quick. All right. My parents, and I shouldn't even stop. Let me go back to the question before that, because as a child, all right, I guess we're in the growing up section, so I should probably leave the parents as a growing up. But after the growing up part and having been grown, I've had other parents, so I can't leave those out. But you'll hear more about the other parents later on. But in this section, I have to include Sister Salome, because she was, apart from my grandmother and my mother, Sister Salome was my second mother when I was in Negril. This was, she started out as a teacher. She taught me or I think I met her at the Negril All Age School, because I went there for a brief time, and then she introduced me to the New Testament Church of God. Right, she was a mother to me. I had to spend a lot of time with her when my parents would travel from Negril to come to Portmore, Kingston, whether it's to visit family or to do business. So I spent a lot of time with Sister Salome. Her name is Salome Samuels, as between the age like maybe 7, well no, 6, 7, 8, 9, those age. I spent a lot of time with her. All right, so back to how or what were your parents like? So
Yes, so what were your parents
yeah,
like?
so my mom, the first couple years, I I remember calling my grandmother mother at first. I'm not sure why, because I probably was too young, so I couldn't say to you exactly why I called mama my mother, and I thought that mama was actually my mother for a good amount of years. I'm assuming that is because I spent a lot of time with her as a baby to toddler. I guess my mother used to work and then leave me with grandma a lot, and I remember sleeping with my grandmother a lot. I remember my grandmother more in my toddler years than my mom. Then when I do remember my mom being my mom was when I was in Negril. I think we're about to run out of time. Well, let me just finish that. So my mother was, I remember starting calling mommy mom when I was probably like 5 years old, thereabout. That's when we were in Negril. She was a happy person at first, I can remember, but then I have very, very vague memories of the youthful years, because most times I remember at that time my mother would be going through a lot of abuse. So as a little girl, I remember seeing like arguments all the time between she and my stepfather. He used to drink, I think when I was like maybe 4 or 5. He had stopped drinking after that, but they used to quarrel a lot. They used to have physical fights a lot, argued a lot. So those years were very vague, and I'm gonna take a break, and then we continue in the next shoot.
Okay, and we'll be right back.